The notification. It came at exactly 11:59 p.m., my 25th birthday. 1 minute. 1 minute before midnight would slam the door shut on the worst day of my entire existence. My phone screen, it just lit up, cast this weird, cold blue glow across my face, already stained, with tears. Maya Bennett unfollowed you. That's all it said. Just 4 words. 4 little words. They shouldn't matter, right? Who cares? But they were like the last punch, the final blow in a day that had already completely shattered me. Maya. My Maya. My best friend since we were kids, scrape-kneed and sharing secrets in a treehouse. My roommate in college, surviving on ramen and bad decisions. The maid of honor at my wedding. My almost wedding. The one person who knew every single stupid, embarrassing, hopeful secret I'd ever bothered to keep. And she'd just digitally erased me from her life. On the one day, the one single day, I needed her more than I needed air. I just stared at those 4 words until they got all blurry, swimming in the fresh wave of tears. The wine bottle, it was empty, lying on its side next to me on the floor like a fallen comrade. How? How could 18 years of us, of laughter and whispered confessions, and holding each other up when the world tried to knock us down, how could all of that be just reduced to a digital dismissal? Those same fingers, the ones that braided my hair before prom, making sure every strand was perfect. The ones that squeezed my hands so tight when my mom was in the hospital, a silent promise of, I'm here. The ones that helped me, just 3 months ago, pick out the dress, the wedding dress, telling me I looked like a princess. Those exact same fingers had just tapped a button. Click, erase, gone. She couldn't even call, I whispered. My voice sounded strange in the empty apartment, too small, too broken. The echo of Ethan's slammed door. It was still there, bouncing off the walls, a constant reminder. After everything we've been through, she couldn't even send a text. Just unfollowed. Like I'm some random celebrity she got bored with, discarded with a flick of her thumb. What Maya didn't know, what none of them knew, was that this wasn't the end for me. In 6 months, just 6 short months, I would own it. The whole damn thing. The very social media platform she'd used to so casually, so cruelly, cut me out of her life. What none of them understood, not Ethan, not Maya, not any of the so-called friends who'd vanished, was that rock bottom. It wasn't my ending. Oh no. It was my beginning. This is the story. The story of how I, Samantha Reed, died on my 25th birthday, and how I was reborn as someone else. Someone entirely new, someone powerful, someone who would make Maya Bennett and every single one of them verify their regret, every last drop of it. I woke up, stretching. The early morning light, it was trying, filtering through the cheap blinds of my apartment, painting stripes on the wall. 25, a landmark, supposed to be anyway. I reached for my phone, a smile already forming. Birthday texts. Mom, of course, even from her European adventure. A few from coworkers. Sweet, generic, but nothing. Nothing from Ethan. He'd slept on the couch again. Another late night at work, another work was stressful excuse murmured before he'd collapsed face down into the cushions. The space beside me in bed felt cold. A familiar emptiness these last few weeks. I dragged myself to the bathroom mirror. God, the dark circles. They were like bruises under my eyes, souvenirs from weeks of worry, of sleepless nights wondering what was wrong, what I was doing wrong. 25, I whispered to my reflection, trying to inject some confidence I didn't feel. This year will be different. This year, I won't be overlooked. I won't. My mind flashed back, unbidden, to last week. Me sitting in Mr. Henderson's ridiculously oversized leather chair, hands clasped tight in my lap. Hearing his voice, that smooth corporate drone. We've decided to go with Brad for the creative director position. Brad, the guy I'd trained 6 months ago, the one whose portfolio was a pale imitation of the concepts I'd poured my heart and soul into. But Brad played golf with Henderson. Brad laughed at his bad jokes. I just worked hard. Apparently, that wasn't enough. I grabbed the concealer, dabbing it under my eyes, trying to construct my "it's fine" face. The one I wore to work, to family dinners, to pretend everything was okay when it felt like the world was crumbling. Tears pricked at the back of my eyes, hot and unwelcome. "At least I have tonight," I muttered, my voice a shaky whisper. "At least I have my friends. My real friends. At least I have Ethan. I think." The last part hung in the air, heavy with doubt. Work was an effort. Colleagues, bless their oblivious hearts, brought in a slightly squashed box of cupcakes from the cheap bakery down the street. They sang a rushed, off-key version of Happy Birthday, while I forced a smile that felt like it would crack my face. More. Must apply more concealer. My desk phone rang, startling me. It was Mom. Her voice crackled over the bad connection halfway across the world. "Happy birth! Sam, darling, can't hear you. The reception here is dreadful. Call tomorrow, love you." And then static, just like that. Another connection lost. Then the email. It chimed into my inbox, an innocuous little ping. Unknown sender. Truthteller@mailbox.com. The subject line was blank. The body of the email contained just 4 words. Ask him about Cassie. Nothing else. No explanation. No signature. My stomach dropped. A cold, hard knot formed right in my gut. Spam, I told myself, my finger hovering over the delete button. Just spam. Has to be. I clicked delete, but the name Cassie echoed in my mind, a tiny, insidious seed of doubt. A text from Ethan finally appeared. "Might be late tonight. Big project deadline. Sorry. Happy birthday, though." No kiss emoji. No love you. Just that. I stared at my engagement ring, the diamond winking coldly under the harsh fluorescent office lights. I twisted it, round and round on my finger, a nervous habit I couldn't seem to break. It felt heavier than usual, and then the cancellations started. A slow, steady trickle of texts throughout the afternoon, each one a tiny paper cut on my already fragile hope for the evening. Rachel. "Oh my God, Sam, I'm so sorry. Woke up with the most awful stomach bug, definitely contagious. Rain check, big hugs, happy birthday, XOXO. Javier. Dude, you are not going to believe this. Car totally broke down on the freeway. Waiting for a tow, no way I can make it tonight. So pissed. Happy 25th, man. We'll celebrate soon." Alicia. My boss is an actual nightmare. Just got called into work for an emergency meeting. Looks like an all-nighter. I'm so sorry. Have an amazing birthday. You deserve it. Drinks on me next week. My thumbs flew across my phone screen, a desperate message to Maya. "Everyone's canceling. Literally everyone. Please tell me you're still coming. Need you tonight. Seriously." Her reply didn't come for almost an hour. An hour where I imagined every worst-case scenario. Finally, my phone buzzed. Maya. "Of course, silly. Wild horses couldn't keep me away. Might be a little late, work stuff. You know how it is. But I wouldn't miss your birthday for the world. Promise. Love you, birthday girl. Can't wait to celebrate." Relief. It washed over me in a warm, comforting wave. At least Maya never lets me down, I murmured to myself, a genuine smile finally reaching my eyes. Maya, my rock. I left work a little early, determined to make the best of it. Even if it was just me, Ethan, and Maya, we'd celebrate. I stopped at the fancy liquor store, the one Ethan usually scoffed at as overpriced, and bought a really nice bottle of champagne. The expensive kind. "Even if it's just the 3 of us," I told the cheerful cashier, "we'll celebrate properly." I hummed as I unlocked the apartment door, a little skip in my step. Decorations were in the tote bag slung over my shoulder, a playlist ready to go. "Ethan," I called out, expecting him to still be at work, or maybe, just maybe, he'd come home early to surprise me. "You're home early, too." The sound cut me off, frantic movement, from the bedroom, our bedroom. My heart lurched. I found Ethan. He was stuffing clothes into a suitcase. Not just any clothes. His designer shirts, the expensive jeans I'd bought him for Christmas, all tossed in haphazardly like he couldn't get them packed fast enough. "What are you doing?" My voice, it didn't sound like me. It was thin, reedy, like a stranger's. Ethan startled, whipping around. His face, usually so open, so easy to read, hardened. It was a look I'd never seen before. Cold. Resolute. I was going to do this later, he said, his voice flat, devoid of emotion. After your birthday. Didn't want to ruin it. Ruin it? Do what? I managed, the champagne bottle suddenly feeling like a lead weight in my hand. What's happening? Is this about the Cassie from the email? The name just tumbled out, a desperate gamble. Ethan's face changed. Surprise, then a flash of anger. Who told you? Was it Ryan? That bastard promised he wouldn't. So it's true, I whispered, the floor seeming to tilt beneath my feet. The pretty balloons I'd bought, still in their bag, suddenly looked garish, mocking. There is a Cassie. Look, Sam, he began, running a hand through his perfectly styled hair, the picture of agitation. This isn't working. It hasn't been for months. You're so focused on your career, on that stupid promotion. The promotion I didn't get? My voice rose, sharp with disbelief and a sudden sickening wave of realization. The promotion I sacrificed weekends for, nights for, while you were apparently with someone named Cassie? It's not like that, he said, but his eyes wouldn't meet mine. Then what is it like, Ethan? I demanded, my voice shaking. Tell me. What is it? Like... And he did. Oh, he did. With a cruelty I didn't know he possessed, he dismantled our 3 years together, piece by painful piece. Cassie? She's new at the firm, he mumbled, staring at a spot on the wall over my shoulder. Marketing executive. We've been seeing each other for about 4 months. 4 months, my mind reeled. 4 months of lies. 4 months of him telling me he was working late, stressed, tired, while I was planning our wedding, our future. Those nights you said you were working late? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. At her place? He nodded, a jerky, uncomfortable movement. Most nights, yeah. The wedding. Our June wedding. The save the dates were already sent, deposits paid, my dress hanging in my mother's closet. The wedding. It's off, Sam, he said, finally looking at me, his eyes cold, hard. I can't do it. I deserve to be happy. Cassie makes me happy. Deserves to be happy, as if my happiness was irrelevant, as if the last 3 years were nothing. Then, the final twist of the knife. The apartment, he said, zipping up his suitcase with a decisive tug. I've already put it on the market. Realtor called today, actually. Got an offer. Without telling me. Our home. The place we'd built together. He grabbed his suitcase, a sleek, expensive one I didn't recognize. Probably a gift from Cassie. He paused at the door, a small, almost pitying smile on his lips. I was going to leave the decorations up for your party, he said, his voice laced with a casual cruelty that stole my breath. But since no one's coming anyway... What do you mean? I choked out, the words catching in my throat. No one's coming. Maya called me earlier, he said, his smile widening, and this time there was no warmth in it at all, just a chilling satisfaction. Said everyone's meeting at Floyd's bar tonight. You know, for Cassie's promotion celebration. She just got made senior VP. Didn't they tell you? The door slammed. The sound reverberated through the apartment, through me, a physical blow. I stood there, frozen, the engagement ring still on my finger, a heavy, meaningless weight. Shock, numbness, then a frantic fumbling for my phone. Instagram. I had to see. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely type. And there it was, or rather, there they weren't. Friend after friend, the unfollow button stark and brutal where following used to be. My follower count, usually a silly vanity metric, was plummeting in real time. Each lost number, another stab. A new text message pinged. Maya, running late, traffic is a beast, save me some cake, XOXO. Cake. She wanted me to save her cake. My fingers flew, surprisingly steady now, fueled by a white-hot rage I didn't know I possessed. Don't bother coming. I know about Floyd's, and Cassie, and Ethan. No response. But the 2 blue check marks appeared. Read. She'd read it. I clicked over to Pulse, the trendier, newer social app everyone was obsessed with. My profile. Follower count dropping there too. Like rats deserting a sinking ship, I clicked on Maya's profile. The follow button. Just follow. Where following had been for years, since the app launched. The timestamp on the unfollow 11:59 p.m. My breath hitched. 1 minute. She waited until 1 minute before my birthday was officially over. The symbolism wasn't lost on me. It was a final, deliberate twist of the knife. I scrolled, a morbid curiosity compelling me, through recent posts tagged at Floyd's bar. There they were. All of them. Maya, her arm slung casually around a stunning blonde woman I'd never seen before. The woman was laughing, head thrown back. Tagged, Cassie Mitchell. Ethan in the background of another shot, looking more relaxed, more genuinely happy than I'd seen him look in months. A beer in his hand, a smile on his face. All our mutual friends. Rachel, who supposedly had a stomach bug. Javier, whose car had allegedly broken down. Alicia, trapped by her nightmare boss. All gathered, raising glasses, smiling, laughing. The caption on Maya's post, the one with Cassie. Celebrating new beginnings with the best crew. So proud of this one. #squad goals, #new chapter, #girl boss. Comments. From Rachel. So much fun. Congrats, Cassie. From Javier. Epic night. Well-deserved, Cassie. From Alicia. Wish I could have stayed longer. You guys are the best. #Floyd screw. My eyes zoomed in on one photo, a candid shot someone had snapped. Maya and Ethan, huddled close, whispering, her hand on his arm, looking intimate. Far too intimate for just friends celebrating another friend's promotion. No, I breathed, shaking my head, a denial that tasted like ash in my mouth. Not Maya, too. She wouldn't. Not with Ethan. She's my best friend. The champagne bottle. It slipped from my numb fingers. It hit the tile floor of the kitchen with a sickening crash, shattering into 1,000 pieces, the expensive bubbly pooling around my feet, soaking into my work clothes, mingling with my tears. I slid down the wall, the rough plaster scraping my back, until I was sitting on the cold, sticky floor. Surrounded by the birthday decorations I'd so hopefully, so naively, hung just an hour before. Streamers drooped forlornly, balloons bobbed gently in the draft from the broken window where Ethan had slammed it. I have no one, I whispered to the silent, mocking room. I am no one. My phone, lying forgotten on the counter, chimed. A calendar reminder. 25 today. Dinner with friends and Ethan. Wedding in 3 months. Don't forget to be happy. With a strangled sob, I grabbed the phone and hurled it across the room. It hit the far wall with a crack, then skittered across the floor, landing face down on a pile of discarded wedding magazines, their glossy pages filled with smiling couples and promises of forever. Forever. What a joke. I woke up with a jolt, my cheek stuck to the cold, hard wood of the living room floor. 10:42 a.m. My head throbbed with a vengeance, a relentless pounding drum against my skull. Empty wine bottles lay scattered around me like fallen soldiers in a battle I'd decisively lost. The metallic tang of regret and cheap Merlot coated my tongue, a vile reminder of the night's descent. My phone. Where was my phone? Ah, there. Screen cracked, a spiderweb of fissures radiating from the corner where it had impacted the wall. Battery at 4%. A barrage of notifications glared accusingly from the shattered screen. 17 unanswered texts to Maya. I scrolled through them, each one a fresh stab of humiliation. They started desperate, pleading, Maya, please talk to me. What's going on? This isn't you. Then they turned angry, fueled by wine and betrayal. 18 years of friendship and you couldn't even call me? Just an unfollow? Are you kidding me? You're a coward, Maya. 9 voicemails to Ethan. The first few were tearful pleas, begging him to reconsider, to talk to me. The last one, I didn't even remember leaving it. Just a string of incoherent sobs and garbled accusations. 4 emails to Maya, subject lines progressing from a confused, what happened? To a furious, how could you do this to me? Oh God, I groaned, burying my face in my hands. I drunk texted everyone. Everyone. I scrolled through more outgoing messages, cringing with each tap. To Ethan. I redesigned my entire life around you, you selfish bastard. and you throw it all away for some blonde bimbo who doesn't even know you're deathly afraid of heights, or that you cry during ASPCA commercials. She'll never know you like I do. Pathetic. To my boss, Mr. Henderson. You know I deserve that promotion, you sexist, oblivious piece of garbage. Brad couldn't direct traffic, let alone a creative department. Enjoy watching the company tank. Career suicide. Definitely career suicide. My phone helpfully informed me that Ethan had blocked my number. Maya, however, had not. All messages showed as read. But still, no reply. Just a cold, echoing silence. My head felt like it was going to split open. I dragged myself to the bathroom, consciously avoiding my reflection in the mirror. I didn't want to see the puffy eyes, the tear-streaked face, the matted hair. I didn't want to see the wreckage. I made it to the toilet just in time. Last night's birthday cake, the one I'd bought for myself, the one I'd eaten alone while sobbing, came back up, mixed with cheap wine and despair. I cried through the heaves, each one a fresh wave of misery. Happy birthday to me, I choked out between sobs. Happy goddamn birthday. My work phone, still in my pocket from yesterday, rang shrilly while I was huddled on the bathroom floor, shivering. I answered it automatically, my voice raw, raspy. Sam, is that you? You sound terrible. It was Henderson's secretary, Carol. Stomach flu, I croaked, the lie coming surprisingly easily. Really bad, won't be in today. Oh, well, Mr. Henderson was asking. This isn't like you, Sam. You've never called in sick. We need those client presentations by EOD. The Hartman account is on the line. Her voice was suspicious, edged with disapproval. I've never missed a day in 3 years, Carol, I said, a spark of my old fire igniting through the haze of self-pity. I think I deserve one sick day without an interrogation. I hung up, my hand shaking. Who cared about the Hartman account anymore? My life was the one on the line. A notification popped up on my personal phone. A memory from Pulse. Apparently, at 3 a.m., in a drunken stupor, I'd posted my location and changed my relationship status. The post. Single and drinking alone on my birthday because my fiancé is a cheating bastard and my friends are garbage people who prefer an ambitious blonde. Cheers to 25. Hash betrayed, hash alone, hash. Happy freaking birthday. 46 pity likes, 12 concerned comments, mostly from distant acquaintances or old college friends I hadn't spoken to in years. Sam, you okay? What happened? OMG, call me if you need to talk. No one actually called though, did they? I muttered, my finger hovering over the delete button. No one had picked up the phone. No one had come knocking. Just digital expressions of concern, easily typed, easily forgotten. I deleted the post, shame burning through me. I tried calling my mother again, and straight to voicemail. Hi, Mom, I said, trying to keep my voice light, breezy. Just letting you know everything's fine. Birthday was great. Super quiet, just what I needed. Talk soon. Love you. Another lie. The lies were piling up, forming a suffocating blanket. A sharp knock at the apartment door startled me. I froze, my heart hammering against my ribs. Maya? Had she come to explain, to apologize, to tell me it was all some horrible misunderstanding? Hope, that stupid, persistent weed, sprouted in my chest. I scrambled to the door, peering through the peephole. Not Maya, just a delivery person, already walking away, leaving a small, unassuming package on the doormat. The return address was handwritten, unfamiliar. Robert Reed. My breath caught. Uncle Robert. My father's estranged younger brother. The black sheep of the family. The one who'd left for Silicon Valley 20 years ago and barely looked back. I hadn't spoken to him, hadn't even seen him, since my father's funeral 8 years ago. Mom had made it clear he wasn't welcome in our lives. Too ambitious, too reckless, too different. I picked up the package, curiosity overriding my caution. Inside, nestled in black satin, was an elegant, matte black box. I opened it. A smartwatch, sleek, minimalist, expensive-looking. The design was unlike anything I'd ever seen, with no visible brand name, no buttons, just a smooth, dark screen. Underneath it, a small, cream-colored card, thick and expensive. handwritten in bold, decisive strokes. Time changes everything, Samantha. Call me when you're ready to change with it. I've been watching your potential go to waste for too long. Your father would have wanted more for you. Uncle Robert. A phone number was printed below his name. I remembered snippets of hushed, angry conversations between my parents about Robert. He always was too ambitious, my mother would say, her lips thin with disapproval. Thinking he could reinvent himself in the world. Thinks he's too good for his own family. My father would just sigh, a sad, resigned sound. He's just Robert, Mary. He sees things differently. I stared at the watch. It felt cool and heavy in my palm. The screen was completely blank. As I picked it up, ready to put it back in the box, it suddenly illuminated. My name, in elegant white script, glowed on the dark surface. Hello, Samantha. I nearly dropped it. Spooked, I quickly set it back down on the coffee table, as if it might bite me. But the seed of curiosity, once planted, was already taking root. I grabbed my laptop, the screen still thankfully intact, and typed Robert Reed Tech into the search bar. The results were sparse, almost deliberately so. An article from 15 years ago, a small mention in a tech journal about an early, savvy investment in a nascent social media platform that had later been acquired for a fortune. A grainy photo of him at a tech conference, years younger, standing shoulder to shoulder with the CEOs of companies that were now household names. He looked intense, driven, a shark among minnows. His name listed on the board of directors of several obscure startups that had all eventually been bought out by larger corporations. And then, nothing. Nothing recent. It was as if he'd deliberately faded into the background, a ghost in the machine. My own social media accounts felt toxic, radioactive. I couldn't bring myself to log in. Instead, I created a new anonymous Pulse account, a burner, just to stalk, just to see. Maya's profile was the first I went to, her carefully curated feed of perfect moments, perfect friends, perfect life. And there they were, photos, going back weeks, months. Maya and Cassie clinking wine glasses at some trendy new tasting room. Dated 2 months ago. 2 months ago, Ethan was still sleeping in my bed whispering I love yous that were apparently meant for someone else. Group dinners, our friends. Ethan and Cassie sitting suspiciously close, a private joke flickering between them. I wasn't in any of those photos. I hadn't even been invited. Sorry, Sam, just a small get-together, they'd said. A specific image dated 3 weeks ago. Maya, Ethan, and Cassie, heads thrown back in laughter, looking like the 3 best friends sharing some secret hilarious joke at my expense, probably. The caption on a photo from last week, Maya beaming, arm in arm with Cassie. When you meet someone who's going to change everything, so excited for what's next. #new bestie #power pair. They were all hanging out, I whispered, bile rising in my throat again. All of them. While I was addressing wedding invitations? While I was picking out china patterns? While I was dreaming of a future that was already a lie? My phone buzzed. A text message from Carol, my coworker. Sam, Mr. Henderson is asking for the Hartman presentation again. He's really not happy. Should I tell them you're definitely sick or... I ignored it. Ignored the tremor in my hands. Ignored the gnawing pit of anxiety in my stomach. Let Henderson stew. Let the Hartman account burn. My world was already in ashes. I clicked on my wedding website. Still active. Samantha and Ethan. Forever begins June 12th. A smiling photo of us taken last summer, tanned and happy, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing just beneath the surface. I unpublished it with a single decisive click. Then, a moment later, my finger hovered. Should I? I republished it, then immediately unpublished it again. What am I doing? I groaned, slamming the laptop shut. Hours passed, a blur of stale coffee, leftover birthday cake, and a deep dive into the digital rabbit hole of betrayal. I found comments. Maya on Cassie's Pulse posts, going back 6 months. 6 months. You two are so cute together. #couple goals. on a photo of Cassie and Ethan at some charity gala I hadn't been invited to. So glad you're in our lives, Cassie. You bring out the best in him. 6 months, while Ethan was telling me he was too stressed with work for date nights. While Maya was helping me plan my bachelorette party, the sheer, calculated deceit of it all was breathtaking. At 7 p.m., the city lights beginning to twinkle outside my window, a sudden, fierce energy surged through me. I opened a new document on my laptop. My fingers flew across the keyboard, words pouring out, a torrent of pain and anger and disbelief. The betrayal playbook, how my fiancé and so-called best friend conspired to systematically destroy my life and thought they could get away with it. I detailed everything, changing names to protect the guilty, though they deserved no such protection. M, Maya, and E, Ethan. How they must have been planning this for months, maybe longer. How C, Cassie, was likely a pawn, deliberately introduced into our circle to be the scapegoat, the convenient excuse. The systematic isolation I'd felt in retrospect, the subtle digs, the missed calls, the canceled plans. The sheer, unadulterated cruelty of doing it all on my birthday, of unfollowing me at 11:59 p.m., 3 hours. 3 hours of furious, cathartic typing. My fingers ached, my eyes burned, but I couldn't stop. When I was done, the document was 12 pages long, single-spaced. Without rereading it, without a second thought, I published it on an anonymous blog platform I'd used in college for angst-ridden poetry. Then, I found the half-empty bottle of sleeping pills Ethan kept in the medicine cabinet for his occasional insomnia. I swallowed 3, far more than the recommended dose, and collapsed into the unmade bed, the indentation of his body still faintly visible on the other side. I expected nothing. Expected no one to ever read my bitter, rambling manifesto. Expected to just sleep for a very, very long time. Morning, or rather afternoon. The insistent buzzing of my phone finally dragged me from a heavy, dreamless stupor. My head felt thick, my mouth like cotton. I fumbled for the phone, squinting at the screen. Notifications, hundreds of them, thousands. My blog post. It had gone viral. 50,000 views and climbing, thousands of comments. Shares across Pulse, Twitter, Facebook. Women, so many women, sharing their own stories of betrayal. By friends, by partners, by family. #birthday, betrayal was trending on Twitter. Several online news sites, the clickbaity kind, had already picked it up. Anonymous heartbreak, woman's brutal birthday betrayal story goes viral, sparks outpouring of support. Is this the most savage breakup and friendship dump ever? You decide. I scrolled through the comments, my eyes wide with disbelief. One comment, buried deep in the thread, caught my eye. Different from the others, not just sympathy or outrage. Something else. Username, Phoenix Rising. The comment, the best revenge isn't getting even, it's getting ahead. They took your followers, so what? Who needs followers when you can own the entire damn platform? Real power isn't in being liked by the masses. It's in owning the system that determines who gets seen, who gets heard. You've been burned to the ground, girl. Now, are you going to stay in the ashes or are you going to rise? DM me if you want to rise stronger. Much stronger. I stared at the comment, my heart suddenly pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs. Phoenix Rising. I looked over at the coffee table, at the sleek, matte black box, at the mysterious smartwatch still nestled inside. My hand, shaking slightly, reached for my phone. I found the elegant cream-colored card Uncle Robert had sent. I dialed the number. It rang once, twice. He answered on the third ring, his voice calm, measured, as if he'd been expecting my call all along. I was wondering when you'd call, Samantha. I took a deep, shaky breath. The watch, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. And the comment. The comment on my blog? Phoenix Rising? That was you, wasn't it, Uncle Robert? A pause, a beat of silence that stretched for an eternity. Then a low chuckle. Very perceptive, Samantha. You always were the smartest one in the family. Your father always said so. What did you mean? I asked, my fingers tracing the cool, smooth surface of the watch. On the card, ready to change with it. And on the blog, ready to be reborn. Robert's voice lowered, taking on a new intensity. Samantha, do you know what happens to a phoenix before it rises from the ashes? It burns, I whispered, the word catching in my throat. Precisely, he said, his voice soft but firm. And you've been thoroughly burned, haven't you, my dear? Thoroughly and spectacularly. So, the question remains, are you ready to be reborn, Samantha? I looked around my apartment. Ethan's empty side of the closet, the wedding invitations still piled mockingly in the trash can. My cracked phone, sitting silently on the nightstand, still showing 0 messages from anyone who supposedly mattered. My career likely up in flames after that email to Henderson. My life, my carefully constructed, meticulously planned life, all gone, all ashes. What exactly are you offering, Uncle Robert? I asked, my voice small but a tiny ember of something defiance, hope, flickering within me. Not just a new start, Samantha, he said, his voice resonating with a quiet power. I'm offering a complete transformation, a chance to become someone so formidable, so influential, so goddamn powerful that the very people who so carelessly threw you away will spend the rest of their miserable lives begging for your attention, for a shred of your acknowledgement. My finger traced the edge of the mysterious watch. It felt alive, pulsing with a faint energy. I'm listening, I said, and for the first time in what felt like an eternity, a spark of something other than despair ignited within me. I'm listening. 2 days. 2 days I'd spent locked in my apartment, fueled by black coffee and a simmering rage, rereading Uncle Robert's cryptic words and staring at the sleek, buttonless watch he'd sent. Now, here I was, standing in the gleaming, soulless lobby of the Archer Building, a monument of steel and glass that scraped the downtown skyline. Uncle Robert's business card felt flimsy in my sweaty palm. The security guards, all crisp uniforms and suspicious glares, eyed me up and down. I knew what they saw, wrinkled clothes I'd slept in for 2 days. Unwashed hair scraped back into a messy bun. Dark circles that no amount of cheap concealer could hide. I was a stark, messy contrast to the polished marble floors and the hushed, expensive air of the place. I'm here to see Robert Reed, I said, my voice smaller than I intended, almost swallowed by the cavernous space. One of the guards, built like a refrigerator with a permanent scowl, raised a perfectly sculpted eyebrow. Name? He barked, his tone implying I'd clearly wandered into the wrong dimension. Samantha Reed, I managed, lifting my chin a fraction. I'm his niece. That got a flicker of something. He made a quick, hushed call, his eyes never leaving me. Then, a surprising deference softened his features. Mr. Reed has been expecting you, Miss Reed. Penthouse floor. He handed me a sleek, silver keycard. Mr. Reed doesn't receive many visitors. The elevator will take you directly up. My stomach did a nervous flip as the elevator doors whispered shut, sealing me in a mirrored box. It climbed. 47 floors, without stopping. Each silent ascent ratcheted up my anxiety. I caught my reflection in the polished steel walls, puffy eyes, limp, greasy hair, the faint, lingering scent of stale wine and despair. A ghost of myself. Was this what rock bottom looked like? The elevator doors opened, not into a hallway, but directly into a stunning penthouse office. Floor-to-ceiling windows wrapped around the entire space, offering a breathtaking panoramic view of the city sprawling below. It was like being on top of the world, looking down on all the tiny, insignificant lives. And there he was. Robert. Standing with his back to me, a tall, lean silhouette against the dazzling skyline, hands clasped behind his back. He turned slowly, and I couldn't help the small gasp that escaped me. He looked older than I remembered from Dad's funeral, gaunt almost. His expensive suit hung a little loosely on his frame. But his eyes, they were the same. Piercing, intelligent. A startling shade of blue, so much like my father's, and they missed nothing. You look terrible, Samantha, he said, his voice dry without preamble. No hug, no pleasantries. Just a blunt assessment. I bristled. Thanks, Uncle Robert. It's been a rough week. Understatement of the millennium. Good, he said, a faint, almost imperceptible smile playing on his thin lips. If you'd shown up here all put together, bright-eyed and smiling, I'd have known you weren't ready. That you hadn't hit bottom hard enough. He gestured towards a long, sleek conference table made of dark wood and chrome. A lavish breakfast spread was laid out. Fresh fruit, pastries, steaming coffee. Eat, he commanded, not unkindly. You look like you haven't had a decent meal in days. As I picked reluctantly at a croissant that probably cost more than my weekly grocery budget, Robert studied me. Those piercing blue eyes seemed to see right through me, to the broken, bewildered core. Your viral post, he said, his voice thoughtful. Quite something. Raw, honest, remarkably compelling. You have a way with words, Samantha. A fire. Your father had it too. You read it? I asked, surprised. It was anonymous. I didn't even use my real name. Robert smiled that thin, knowing smile again. I make it my business to know things, Samantha, especially about family, even estranged family. We haven't spoken in 8 years, I reminded him. The memory of my father's funeral, the awkwardness, the unspoken grief, still fresh. Not since Dad. Your mother made it quite clear I wasn't welcome, he said, a flicker of something, pain, regret, in his eyes. But I've kept tabs on you, from a distance. The marketing degree, summa cum laude. The job at Apex Creative, good firm, solid start. The engagement announcement in the Times, a bit premature as it turns out. My voice cracked, the carefully constructed dam of composure threatening to break. Well, that engagement is over, so... I know, he said softly. I also know about the promotion you deserved and didn't get. Brad Henderson, wasn't it? Nepotism hire. I know about the so-called friends who betrayed you spectacularly on your birthday. And I know about the apartment you're about to lose because your charming ex-fiancé's name is the only one on the lease, and he's already listed it with a cut-rate broker. I stared at him, speechless. How could you possibly know all that? Like I said, he repeated, his gaze unwavering. I make it my business to know things. He pressed a nearly invisible button on a slim, futuristic-looking remote control. The floor-to-ceiling windows, the ones overlooking the city, transformed. They shimmered, then solidified into massive digital screens. My work portfolio glowed on one. My performance reviews, mostly stellar, a few with Henderson's subtly undermining comments. My bank statements, on another, dwindling savings, mounting credit card debt, the wedding fund, now a monument to my naivety, social media analytics on a third, Maya's smug posts from Floyd's bar, Ethan's new profile picture with Cassie, my rapidly declining follower count, property records from my apartment on the 4th, Ethan's name, only Ethan's name, and the new listing. Price to sell. What is all this? I whispered, standing abruptly alarmed. Are you spying on me, Uncle Robert? This was too much, too invasive. I've been waiting, Samantha, he said, his voice calm, patient. Waiting for the right moment to approach you. You weren't ready before. You were too comfortable, too complacent. Ready for what? I demanded, my heart hammering. What is this? Robert walked slowly, deliberately, to a large, illuminated glass case in the corner of the office. Inside, on a velvet pedestal, was a logo I recognized instantly. The distinctive, stylized pulse wave of the Pulse social media platform, the app everyone was migrating to, the app where Maya had unfollowed me. Do you use Pulse, Samantha? He asked, his back still to me. Of course, I said, my voice barely a breath. Everyone does. It's where Maya unfollowed me, at 11:59 p.m., on my birthday. Yes, I know, he said, turning back, his eyes glinting. At 11:59 p.m. on your 25th birthday. Quite the symbolic gesture, wouldn't you agree? A digital execution. He pressed another button on the remote. A holographic display shimmered into existence in the center of the room, projecting Pulse's company data in three-dimensional charts and graphs. It looked like something out of a sci-fi movie. User statistics, 500 million active monthly users, and growing. Revenue projections, impressive growth, but profitability issues, significant cash burn, executive team structure, several key positions including CEO, COO, and head of product, listed as vacant or filled by interim appointments. Competitor analysis, Pulse, despite its massive user base and cutting-edge tech, was losing ground slowly but surely to newer, nimbler platforms. Bleeding users in key demographics. I was an early investor in Pulse, Robert said quietly, his gaze fixed on the holographic data. One of the largest shareholders, in fact, though I prefer to keep my involvement discreet. The pieces clicked into place in my mind, forming a startling, unbelievable picture. The watch, I said, my eyes wide. The smartwatch you sent me. It's Pulse technology, isn't it? But I've never seen that model before. It's not on the market. Prototype, he confirmed with a nod. Next generation, not available to the public? Yet. It's part of their future, a very lucrative future if managed correctly. He coughed then, a deep, racking cough that shook his thin frame. He pulled a pristine white handkerchief from his pocket and pressed it to his lips. When he drew it away, I thought I saw a faint stain of red. My eyes darted to his desk. A pill organizer, the kind with little compartments for each day of the week, sat beside a stack of what looked like hospital appointment cards. Are you sick, Uncle Robert? I asked, a sudden, unexpected wave of concern washing over me. He waved a dismissive hand, but his face looked even more drawn, more fragile. Terminal cancer, he said, his voice matter-of-fact, almost casual. Aggressive, untreatable. The doctors give me 6 to 8 months, maybe less. Which is why we need to move quickly, Samantha. Move quickly with what? I pressed, my head spinning. Why am I here, Uncle Robert? What does any of this have to do with me? Pulse, he said, his eyes blazing with a sudden fierce intensity, is at a crossroads. Incredible technology, a massive, engaged user base, but it's suffering from poor leadership. Tech bros who see users as data points, not as human beings. They're squandering its potential. They need someone who truly understands human connection, human motivation, not just algorithms and code. His gaze locked onto mine, sharp, unwavering. I want you to take over Pulse, Samantha. I laughed, a short, sharp, incredulous bark of a laugh. Then I stopped. His expression hadn't changed. He was serious, utterly, terrifyingly serious. That's insane, I stammered. Uncle Robert, I'm a mid-level marketing executive. Or I was. I'm currently unemployed and about to be homeless. I'm not a tech CEO. I wouldn't even know where to begin. You're much more than that, Samantha, he countered, his voice firm. Your viral post, the one you wrote in a fit of rage and despair, it demonstrated a profound, intuitive understanding of human relationships, of betrayal, of the very things that drive social connection, or destroy it. Your career, despite the recent setback, shows exceptional strategic thinking, creativity, resilience. You understand what Pulse really is, not just a tech platform, but a human connection engine. And right now, that engine is sputtering. Even if any of that were true, I argued, pacing the length of the opulent office, which it isn't, the board, the shareholders. They would never accept me as CEO. They'd laugh me out of the room. They will when I'm finished with them, Robert said, a steely determination in his voice, because you won't be Samantha Reed. And then he laid it all out. His proposal, audacious, unbelievable, terrifying. He would use his considerable fortune, his network, his influence, the tendrils of which I was beginning to realize ran deep and wide, to help me acquire a controlling interest in Pulse. Quietly, strategically, I, Samantha Reed, would completely reinvent myself. Over the next 6 months, 6 months of intensive immersive training, I would emerge as Sloane Reynolds. A new name, a new identity, a meticulously constructed persona with an impeccable, unverifiable background, international business experience, a track record of turning struggling companies around. As Sloane Reynolds, I would step in, seemingly out of nowhere, and take the helm of Pulse. I would implement my vision for the platform, a vision Robert clearly believed I possessed. He explained in chilling detail how they would create Sloane's identity. A manufactured resume, peppered with consulting gigs for discreet European firms. A short, successful stint at a private equity fund in Asia, all untraceable yet plausible. Technological training, intensive boot camps with his own private team of experts, coders, data scientists, cybersecurity gurus. I'd learn the guts of the platform inside and out. Physical transformation. A new look, hairstyle, wardrobe, makeup. New mannerisms, posture, body language, even the way I walked and talked. Voice coaching to lower my pitch, to project authority. Psychological coaching to develop the unshakable confidence, the steely presence, the ruthless decision-making abilities of a top-tier tech leader. To kill the wounded, insecure Samantha and birth the formidable Sloane. My objections came in a torrent, a jumble of fear and disbelief. This is crazy. People will recognize me. My mother, my old colleagues, Maya, Ethan. You'd be surprised, Samantha, he said, his gaze unwavering. How little people truly see when they look at someone. They see what they expect to see. And no one will be expecting Sloane Reynolds to be you. I don't know the first thing about running a multi-billion-dollar tech company. You'll learn, he stated simply. I have the best teachers in the world on retainer. They will mold you. This sounds illegal, creating a fake identity? It's fraud. Nothing illegal about a legal name change, Samantha. Nothing illegal about reinventing yourself. People do it every day, just not usually on this scale. What about my mother, my job, what's left of it, my life? The words felt hollow even as I said them. Robert's voice softened just a fraction, but his eyes remained hard. What life, Samantha? The one where your fiancé publicly humiliated you and left you for another woman? The one where your supposed best friend of 18 years stabbed you in the back and then unfollowed you on your birthday? The one where your career is stagnating, your savings are gone, and you're about to be evicted? Is that the life you're so desperate to cling to? I paced by the windows, the city a dizzying panorama below. Why? I finally choked out. Why would you do all this for me? We've barely spoken in years. You don't even really know me. For the first time, Robert's carefully constructed facade seemed to crack. A shadow of deep, profound weariness crossed his features. Because I see myself in you, Samantha, he said, his voice suddenly hoarse. More than you know, because I made a promise to your father, my brother, a long time ago, that I would look out for you if anything ever happened to him. A promise I haven't been very good at keeping until now. He paused, taking a ragged breath. And because I'm dying. And I want my fortune, the empire I built from nothing, to do something meaningful, something transformative. Not just line the pockets of more undeserving sycophants. He sat down heavily in a large leather armchair, suddenly looking every bit his illness, every bit the dying man he was. And, he added, his voice dropping to a near whisper, because I know what it's like to be betrayed, to be gutted by the people closest to you, to have everything you've built stolen out from under you, and to have to reinvent yourself, piece by painful piece from the ashes. And then he told me his own story, a story I'd never heard, a story my parents had never shared. How his first company, a revolutionary software he'd poured his youth and genius into, had been stolen by his business partners, his closest friends. How they'd locked him out, taken his patents, left him with nothing but debt and a burning sense of injustice. How he'd been forced to start over, from scratch, in his late 30s with no money, no connections, only his intellect and an unshakable will to succeed. How he'd silently, painstakingly built his second empire, this vast, unseen web of investments and influence, while those who had betrayed him had eventually, inevitably, failed, their stolen success turning to ash in their mouths. My voice was quiet when I finally spoke, the sheer audacity of his plan, of his life, overwhelming me. Even if I wanted to do this, Uncle Robert, which is a huge, monumental if, what on earth makes you think I could actually pull it off? I'm not you. I'm not strong like that. Oh, but you are, Samantha, he said, a flicker of the old fire returning to his eyes. Because you're a Reed. Your father was the kindest man I ever knew, but he had a core of steel. And Reeds don't break, they don't crumble, they transform. He picked up the remote again. One of the giant window screens flickered, then displayed a new set of images. Recent social media posts. Maya and Ethan, together at a sun-drenched beach resort. Tanned, laughing, looking carefree. Cassie was with them in a few shots, the three of them radiating a smug, exclusive happiness. The caption on one of Maya's posts, a picture of her and Ethan, his arm around her, her head on his shoulder, looking out at a turquoise ocean. Best spontaneous vacation ever with my absolute favorites. Couldn't ask for better company or a more beautiful view. Hash blessed hash. Travelgram hash making memories. The date stamp. It was from 3 days ago while I was still curled up on my floor, sobbing, surrounded by shattered champagne glass and shattered dreams. Another post, Maya and Ethan again, closer this time, looking cozy at a candlelit dinner, an expensive restaurant I recognized from their business trips. Time-stamped from 2 months before my birthday. 2 months before Cassie supposedly entered the picture. And there in the comments section, a familiar name. Cassie Mitchell, her comment, "You two are just too cute together. So happy for you both. Finally." A winking emoji. Finally. My blood ran cold, colder than the marble beneath my feet. They were together before? I whispered, the words feeling like shards of glass in my throat. Maya and Ethan. Before Cassie? It appears so, Samantha, Robert said gently, his voice laced with a grim understanding. It appears your best friend and your fiancé had something going on long before Miss Mitchell became the convenient narrative. She wasn't the cause of the breakup, my dear. She was just the alibi, the socially acceptable excuse. I sank into the nearest chair, the betrayal compounding, layer upon sickening layer until I felt like I was drowning in it. Why are you showing me this? I choked out, fresh tears blurring the images of their smiling, treacherous faces. Because you need to understand, Samantha, Robert said, his voice firm but not unkind. You need to see with your own eyes that there is nothing left for you in your old life, nothing worth salvaging, nothing worth going back to. Samantha Reed, as you knew her, as they knew her, meant nothing to these people. She was disposable, forgettable. He leaned forward, his blue eyes blazing with an almost fanatical light. But Sloane Reynolds will make them regret the day they ever crossed paths with you. Sloane Reynolds will make them verify their regret down to the last decimal point. He slid a thick, leather-bound document across the polished table towards me. Embossed in gold on the cover were 2 words: the Transformation Protocol. I opened it with trembling fingers. It was a blueprint, a detailed, step-by-step plan for the next 6 months of my life. Or rather, the death of my current life and the birth of a new one. Phase 1. Death. Samantha Reed, marketing executive, 25, tragically disappears during a solo hiking trip in a remote national park. Body never recovered, presumed dead. A small, sad news item. A grieving mother, a few crocodile tears from former friends and colleagues. Phase 2. Rebirth. 6 months of intensive training. Physical, mental, technological. The forging of Sloane Reynolds. New identity, new skills, new mindset. Location, a private, secure facility owned by Robert, no contact with the outside world. And Phase 3, Ascension, Sloane Reynolds, the mysterious, brilliant international businesswoman, emerges, acquires controlling interest in Pulse, takes the helm as CEO, shakes up the tech world. Phase 4, Verification, the ultimate reveal, the reckoning, details, to be determined by Sloane herself. The last page was blank, except for a single line at the bottom, waiting for a signature. I stared at the pen Robert offered me, a heavy, expensive fountain pen. This is insane, I whispered, my voice hoarse. No, Samantha, he corrected, his eyes gleaming. It's revolutionary. It's audacious. It's your one chance to take all that pain, all that betrayal, and forge it into power. The question is not whether it's insane. The question is, are you brave enough to die so that something stronger, something infinitely more powerful can be born? I looked again at the smiling, sun-drenched photos of Maya and Ethan, their happiness a knife twisting in my gut. I thought of my cracked phone, still silent, still devoid of a single message from anyone who truly cared. I thought of my stagnant career, my stolen promotion, my empty apartment, the life I'd poured everything into, now a pile of smoldering ruins. Samantha Reed, she was already dead, wasn't she? They had killed her on her birthday. My hand, surprisingly steady, reached out and took the pen. The cool metal felt solid, real, in my grasp. Samantha Reed died on her 25th birthday. I said, my voice clear now, devoid of a tremor. It's time for Sloan to be born. I signed the name Samantha Reed for the very last time. Robert's smile was both triumphant and deeply, profoundly sad. Welcome to your afterlife, Sloan, he whispered. Let the games begin. The headline screamed silently from the tablet screen in my hand. Local woman, 25, presumed dead after tragic hiking accident in Sierra Nevadas. There was a picture of me smiling awkwardly from my old company's website. Samantha Reed, marketing executive, Apex Creative, gone. The article was concise, filled with the usual platitudes and carefully chosen quotes. Samantha Reed, an avid hiker, a lie, I'd been hiking maybe twice in my life and complained both times, had embarked on a solo trip in a notoriously treacherous part of the national park. Her rental car found abandoned at the trailhead. Her backpack and identification discovered by search and rescue teams near the edge of a steep, unforgiving cliff face, ominously named Widow's Peak. After 5 days of intensive searching, hampered by bad weather, also meticulously arranged by Robert's people, I later learned, the official search had been called off. Quote from a stoic-looking park ranger, given the rugged terrain, the current weather conditions, and the location where her belongings were found, survival would be highly unlikely. It's a tragic loss. A brief, almost dismissive mention of recent personal setbacks, including a recently broken engagement. As if that explained why I'd supposedly wandered off a cliff. A quote from Mr. Henderson at Apex Creative, expressing his profound shock and sadness at the loss of a bright, promising young talent. I snorted. Bright and promising, right up until he'd passed me over for Brad. I was sitting in a minimalist, sun-drenched bedroom. Not a frill or a personal touch in sight. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked a dense, impenetrable forest, miles from anywhere, or so I'd been told. This was the secure facility Robert had mentioned. My gilded cage, my rebirth cocoon. Is it strange? Uncle Robert's voice came from the doorway. He was leaning against the frame, looking even thinner than he had in his office, but his eyes were bright, appraising. Reading about your own demise? I lowered the tablet. Strange doesn't quite cover it, Uncle Robert, I said, my voice still feeling like it belonged to someone else. It's surreal, like watching a movie about a character who happens to look like me. Good, he said, nodding slowly. Detachment is key. Samantha Reed is a closed chapter, a story that has ended. You are Sloan Reynolds now, and Sloan's story is just beginning. And so began Phase 2, Rebirth. The first few weeks were a blur. Physical conditioning, hours each day with a stoic ex-military trainer named Marcus, who pushed me until my muscles screamed and I thought I would collapse. Running through the forest trails surrounding the compound, endless push-ups, sit-ups, martial arts drills. Sloan Reynolds is strong, he'd grunt, his face impassive. Sloan Reynolds does not quit. And I didn't. The pain was a welcome distraction from the gnawing emptiness Samantha had left behind. Then there was the voice coach, a prim, terrifyingly precise woman named Eleanor, who worked to eradicate my slight Midwestern inflection, lower my pitch, and teach me to project authority with every word. Sloan Reynolds speaks with conviction, Miss Reed, not with apology. Hours of reciting Shakespeare, of practicing boardroom presentations to an empty room, of learning to modulate my tone, my cadence, my very breath. The etiquette coach, a dapper older gentleman named Julian, who taught Sloan how to navigate the rarefied world of high finance and old money. Which fork to use. How to make small talk with billionaires. How to command a room with quiet confidence. How to drink $100 a glass wine without looking like I'd just won the lottery. The tech tutors, a team of brilliant, socially awkward young men and women Robert had handpicked. They bombarded me with information about coding languages, data architecture, cybersecurity protocols, AI algorithms. I, who had once struggled to set up my own Wi-Fi router, was suddenly immersed in the complex, intricate guts of Pulse. They were patient mostly, though I could see the occasional flicker of disbelief in their eyes as I struggled with concepts they'd probably mastered in kindergarten. But Robert had been right about one thing. I was a fast learner, and I was driven by a desperate, burning need to succeed, to prove him right, to prove them wrong. Days blurred into weeks. My hair was cut and dyed, a sleek, sophisticated dark bob that framed a face that was slowly becoming Sloane's. My wardrobe was replaced gone where Samantha's slightly boho comfortable clothes replaced by sharply tailored suits, elegant dresses, designer heels that pinched but made me stand taller. I learned to walk in them, to command a room in them. Evenings were spent studying business strategy, global finance, tech industry trends, biographies of ruthless, successful CEOs, and always, always, Robert. He was my guide, my mentor, my tormentor. He pushed me, challenged me, broke me down, and rebuilt me piece by piece. He shared his own stories of failure and triumph, of betrayal and revenge. He taught me to think strategically, to anticipate my opponent's moves, to be ruthless when necessary, but always, always to keep my ultimate goal in sight. Power is not given, Sloane, he'd say, his voice raspy but firm, as we sat in his study late at night, surrounded by books and the faint scent of expensive cigars he could no longer smoke. It is taken, and once you have it, you must wield it wisely, or it will destroy you. His health was visibly declining. Some days he was sharp, incisive, the brilliant tactician who had built an empire. Other days he was weak, breathless, confined to his bed, the shadow of death lengthening in his eyes. But even on his worst days, he pushed me, pushed Sloane. I learned to compartmentalize. Samantha's grief, her pain, her longing for a life that no longer existed. I locked it away in a small dark box in the furthest corner of my mind. Sloane had no time for such sentimentality. Sloane was focused. Sloane was driven. Sloane was becoming. The news of Samantha Reed's death had eventually faded from the headlines. My mother, I knew, would be devastated. Robert had arranged for an anonymous, untraceable trust fund to be set up for her, enough to ensure she'd be comfortable for the rest of her life. It was a cold comfort, I knew, for the loss of her only child. The guilt was a constant, dull ache, another burden for Sloane to carry. But Robert was adamant. No contact, Sloane, not yet. It would jeopardize everything. Your mother will understand one day, when she sees what you've become. I clung to that. Clung to the belief that somehow, someday, this insane, audacious plan would all make sense, that the pain would be worth it, that Sloane Reynolds would be worth it. And because Samantha Reed? Samantha Reed was dead and buried, somewhere on a lonely, windswept cliff in the Sierra Nevadas. And from her ashes, Sloane was slowly, painfully beginning to take flight. 3 months, 90 days. It felt like a lifetime. The transformation was no longer just skin deep, a new haircut and a killer wardrobe. It was seeping into my bones, into my very cells. I was starting to think like Sloane, to react like Sloane. The hesitation, the self-doubt that had plagued Samantha was receding, replaced by a cool, analytical focus, most of the time. My education in Pulse was relentless. Robert's tech team, a quirky bunch I'd privately nicknamed the Geek Squad of Doom, had me dissecting lines of code, analyzing user data streams, and understanding the platform's architecture until my brain felt like mush. But amidst the jargon and the complex algorithms, something clicked. I began to see it, the raw, untapped potential. Pulse wasn't just another social media app. At its core, it possessed a revolutionary AI. This wasn't just about suggesting new friends or curating a newsfeed. This AI, codenamed Oracle by its creators, could predict user behavior with an almost terrifying accuracy. It understood subtle shifts in sentiment, anticipated trends before they even materialized, and could map intricate networks of influence and connection in ways that made my marketing brain spin. This predictive technology, I realized, was Pulse's crown jewel. It was why Robert had invested so heavily. It was why, despite its current financial troubles and rudderless leadership, Pulse was still a titan. It's not just about predicting what they'll buy, Sloane, Robert rasped one evening. We were in his library, a vast, book-lined room that smelled of old paper and his faint medicinal scent. He was propped up in a large leather armchair, a cashmere blanket tucked around his frail frame, but his eyes were sharp, alight with an almost feverish intensity. Oracle can predict what they'll feel, who they'll connect with, who they'll betray. It's a map of the human heart, digitized. A chill went down my spine. That's incredibly powerful, Uncle Robert, and incredibly dangerous. All power is dangerous in the wrong hands, he countered, a dry cough rattling his chest. The current idiots running Pulse, they're using it to sell more ads, to push more useless products. They're like children playing with a loaded weapon. But in the right hands, in your hands, Sloan, it could be used to genuinely improve connections, to foster understanding, to identify toxicity before it spreads. A vision began to form in my mind, hazy at first, then sharpening into focus. A way to harness Oracle not for exploitation, but for authenticity. A social media platform that didn't just measure likes and followers, but the genuine quality of relationships. It sounded idealistic, almost naive, but the more I learned about Oracle's capabilities, the more I believed it was possible. Sometimes late at night, when the compound was silent and the weight of Sloane's manufactured confidence felt too heavy, Samantha would stir. Memories would surface, unbidden. Maya. Laughing until tears streamed down her face at one of my stupid jokes. Holding my hand as we walked home from school, sharing secrets whispered so low no one else could hear. The way she'd look at me with that fierce, protective loyalty that had made me feel like the most important person in the world. "Promise me, Sam," she'd said once when we were teenagers, huddled under a blanket during a thunderstorm. "Promise me we'll always be there for each other, no matter what. No boys, no jobs, no stupid fights will ever come between us. Sisters for life." I'd promised. We both had. These memories, they were like shards of glass in my heart. They fueled Sloane's determination, reminding her of the depth of the betrayal. But they also complicated things. Made the cold, calculated revenge plot feel messy, human. Robert's health was a ticking clock. Each cough, each moment of weakness, a stark reminder that our time was running out. He was deteriorating faster than the doctors had predicted, faster than any of us wanted to admit. He started introducing me, via secure video calls, to key investors. "Sloan Reynolds," he'd say, his voice weak but still commanding respect. "A brilliant mind, my protege. She has a vision for Pulse that will revolutionize the industry." They were skeptical, of course. Who was this unknown woman? Where had she come from? But Sloan, cool and articulate, armed with her deep understanding of Pulse's technology and her burgeoning vision, began to win them over. I, Sloan, spoke their language. ROI, market share, disruptive innovation. But I also spoke of something more, of authentic connection in an increasingly disconnected world. "The current verification system on social media is a joke," Sloan told a panel of powerful, predominantly male investors, her voice resonating with quiet confidence. "A blue checkmark signifies what? Celebrity? Influence bought and paid for? It's become a status symbol, not a marker of trustworthiness or genuine connection. We can do better. Pulse can do better." I proposed a new system, authenticity verification. It wouldn't just be about verifying identity. It would use Oracle's predictive power to measure the quality of a user's connections, analyzing patterns of interaction, reciprocity, shared history, emotional resonance. It would distinguish between genuine relationships and superficial performative ones. Users wouldn't just get a checkmark. Their actual relationships, their digital footprint of connection, would be subtly, anonymously rated for authenticity. There was a stunned silence on the video call, then a flurry of questions. It was radical, controversial, and, as one investor finally admitted, potentially bloody brilliant, Miss Reynolds, if you can pull it off. They were intrigued by Sloan, by her audacious ideas, by the quiet, unwavering backing of the dying but still formidable Robert Reed. Meanwhile, through the anonymous tracking systems Robert's team had set up, I kept tabs on my old life. Or rather, Sloan monitored the fallout from Samantha's. Maya was thriving. She'd been promoted at her PR firm, landed a huge new client. Using ideas I noted with a bitter pang that had been mine. Concepts Samantha had developed, pitched, and been told were too ambitious or not a good fit for the company culture. Apparently, they were a perfect fit for Maya, and she was with Ethan, openly now. Their Pulse profiles were a sickeningly sweet montage of their perfect life together. Romantic dinners, weekend getaways, cozy nights in. Cassie Mitchell, the convenient excuse, seemed to have vanished from their narrative as quickly as she'd appeared. Pushed out, no doubt, once Maya had solidified her claim on Ethan. These discoveries should have fueled Sloane's righteous anger, solidified her resolve, and they did to an extent. But there was also a strange, unsettling feeling, a question that whispered in the quiet moments. What was I becoming? Was this cold, calculating woman, meticulously planning the downfall of her former best friend and fiancé, any better than they were? Robert, even in his weakened state, noticed my hesitation. His perception was still unnervingly acute. "Doubt, Sloane?" he'd asked one afternoon, his voice a mere thread. "Second thoughts about our project?" It's just, I struggled to articulate the turmoil inside me. Seeing them, Maya, it feels complicated. He'd reached out a frail, trembling hand and patted mine. His touch was surprisingly gentle. "Revenge is a powerful motivator, Sloane," he'd whispered. "It can get you started. It can fuel the fire. But it will burn you out if it's all you have. Revenge is just the engine, my dear. Creation. Building something new, something better, from the ashes of what they destroyed. That is the true goal. That is the victory that will sustain you." His words resonated, cutting through the fog of my internal conflict. He was right. I didn't just want to expose Maya's betrayal, to make Ethan regret his cruelty. That felt small, empty. I wanted to build something meaningful, something that would prove Samantha Reed hadn't died for nothing, that her pain, her loss, could be a catalyst for something far greater than petty revenge. Sloane Reynolds wouldn't just tear down their world. She would build an empire from the rubble of her own. An empire so vast, so influential, that they would be nothing more than insignificant footnotes in her extraordinary story, 5 months. The transformation was nearing its crescendo. The acquisition plans for Pulse were in full, frenetic swing. Sloane Reynolds was no longer just a concept, a carefully constructed identity. She was a force. I had mastered the intricacies of Pulse's business operations, its Byzantine financial structures, its complex technological infrastructure. More than that, I had helped Robert and his team design a bold new direction for the platform, a strategy built around the core concept of authentic verification. A strategy that, if successful, wouldn't just save Pulse, it would redefine the very nature of social media. But as Sloane grew stronger, more confident, more formidable, Robert was fading. The cancer was relentless, devouring him from the inside out. He was confined to his bed most days now, a pale shadow of the powerful man he had once been. Yet his mind remained sharp, his will indomitable. He insisted on overseeing every detail of the Pulse acquisition, every negotiation, every strategic move. "We must complete this, Sloane," he'd whisper, his voice thready, his breath shallow. Before my time is up. I need to see you take the helm. I need to know my legacy is secure, that your legacy is about to begin." A genuine affection, a deep and surprising bond had grown between us. He was more than just a mentor, more than the architect of my rebirth. He had become the father figure I'd lost too soon, the family I thought I'd never have again. I found myself torn between the desperate urge to rush the plan, to fulfill his dying wish, and the gnawing fear that I wasn't ready, that Sloane wasn't yet fully formed, that I would somehow fail him, fail myself. The weight of my secrets was immense. Through Sloane's sophisticated monitoring systems, I knew the truth about my mother. She wasn't just grieving, she was spiraling into a deep depression, convinced she had failed Samantha, convinced she had missed some sign, some desperate cry for help. The anonymous financial support Robert had arranged was a practical help, but it couldn't fill the gaping hole Samantha's death had left in her life. The guilt was a constant, suffocating presence. I yearned to tell her the truth, to alleviate her pain. But Robert, even in his weakened state, was resolute. "Not yet, Sloane," he'd insisted, his voice firm despite its frailty. Revealing the truth now, before Pulse is yours, before Sloan is unassailable, would jeopardize everything. Your mother is stronger than you think. She will endure. And one day, she will understand. She will be proud. I had to believe him. I had to. The current CEO of Pulse, a man named Marcus Thorne, was desperate. The company was teetering on the brink of bankruptcy, bleeding cash, hemorrhaging users to newer, more agile competitors. He was looking for a lifeline, a buyer, anyone to take the failing behemoth off his hands before it imploded entirely. He saw Sloan Reynolds as that lifeline, a mysterious, deep-pocketed investor with a bold, unconventional vision. He didn't see the dying man pulling the strings from behind the scenes. He didn't see the ghost of Samantha Reed, hungry for a different kind of retribution. The negotiations were intense. Thorne was a slick, seasoned operator, used to getting his way. But Sloan Reynolds was his match, calm, precise, unyielding. Armed with Robert's strategies and her own burgeoning confidence, Sloan, outmaneuvered him at every turn. I knew Pulse's weaknesses, its hidden vulnerabilities, better than he did. I knew its untapped strengths, its revolutionary technology, in a way he couldn't even comprehend. Robert watched every crucial negotiation via a secure video link from his bed, his eyes gleaming with a fierce pride as Sloan coolly, expertly dismantled Thorne's arguments, countered his demands, and secured terms that would give us complete, unassailable control of the platform. "Magnificent, Sloan," he'd whispered after one particularly grueling session. "You were born for this. Your father would have been so incredibly proud." His words were like a balm to my raw, conflicted soul. The deal was set. In 2 weeks, Sloan Reynolds would be announced as the new owner and CEO of Pulse. The news would send shockwaves through the tech world. That evening, after the final papers were drawn up, ready for signing, Robert had a serious health episode. The doctors were called. Hushed voices, beeping machines, the sterile scent of fear. For a few terrifying hours, I thought we were going to lose him, but he stabilized. The sheer force of his will, it seemed, was enough to hold death at bay, just a little longer. From his hospital bed, his voice barely a whisper, he made me promise. "Pulse, Sloan. Use it for more than just them. More than just Maya and Ethan. More than revenge." His eyes, clouded with pain but still piercingly clear, searched mine. My own revenge. It brought me wealth, power, but it left me hollow, Sloan. Empty. For so many years. I don't want that for you. Don't let the bitterness consume you, as it almost consumed me. "I promise, Uncle Robert," I said, my voice thick with emotion, tears streaming down my face. I squeezed his frail, cool hand. "I'll build something meaningful, something good. Something Samantha would have been proud of." A faint smile touched his lips. "Good girl," he breathed. The next day, the papers were signed. In a sterile conference room surrounded by lawyers in expensive suits, Sloan Reynolds, in a sharply tailored power suit of her own, her signature a bold, confident flourish, officially became the new owner and majority shareholder of Pulse. Robert watched via video link, propped up in his hospital bed, a single tear tracing a path down his gaunt cheek. As Sloan's pen lifted from the final document, he whispered so faintly I almost didn't hear it. "From the ashes, the phoenix rises. Fly high, Sloan, fly high." My story continues in the next message due to character limits.